in Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 through 12. Let me go ahead and read this real quick. It says, "Now I want you to know, brothers, that the gospel preached by me is not based on human point of view. For I did not receive it from a human source, and I was not taught it, but it came by revelation from Jesus Christ." What an amazing statement that is, okay? To be able to say that. If you'll remember, we're going to talk about this here, but if you'll remember, it did come divinely appointed, okay? The gospel is divine in nature, is basically what he's saying. The gospel that I got is divine in nature, verses 11 through 12. And it says, Paul begins to disclose the source of this information, but Paul starts off by telling the church where the gospel didn't come from, okay? Paul says the gospel didn't come from human thought or a human perspective. The word used here is according to a man. And he says that nobody preached it to him. Nobody taught him. The word used here separates beings. He said it singles out man alone and dispels the possibility that any man had anything to do with the source of his information on the gospel. From the beginning, the event that led him to change his life in thinking actually comes from Acts chapter 9, verses 1 and 2. Paul, and that's when Paul was on the road, and he was headed to shut down the church. Okay, he was persecuting the church for for bringing in this gospel, if you will, and the Lord met him on that road, and actually that started the whole process for Paul. Paul also was not taught by human source, and that's what he said. The word used for teach is revealing. It means to set under the instruction of another, if you will, and that's what he's saying. That did not happen. He did not set under the instruction of another human being. So Paul is saying that he didn't set under the instruction of another human being. He didn't set under anybody's instruction, any teacher's instruction. So he's saying, I'm not adopting someone else's stuff. This is not the doctrine. This is not the doctrine I'm teaching. It's not the doctrine of men. The place and person Paul received from Jesus. It came by instruction. This word instruction is to lay bare and to disclose the truth. And that's what he's saying happened with him. And if you look, who it was disclosed by, it was disclosed by Jesus the Messiah himself. And that's what, if you look at Acts chapter 9, verse 5, that's what Jesus identifies himself to Paul on this road to Damascus. Okay, and that's what he's saying happened to him on that road. Okay, so there was a change in Paul's life after this revelation. Paul had known before this conversation. Paul was opposed to the church, and Paul calls his testimony into light here because Paul reminds them of trying to do away with the church, that he was trying to do away with the church. And Paul was going around having people jailed and beaten before the conversion. Paul sought to put a stop to the way. Paul is using this past to show that he never was a people pleaser. He never gave in to what people thought best. He was zealous. He was zealous about his religion. In fact, Paul was actually headed to be the next of the Sanhedrin at a very young age, by the way. And Paul was on the move up to Judaism. He was part of that Sanhedrin. He was on the move. He was making it. There was no reason for him to make a change because he was way above all of his contemporaries. He was set in his profession. He was to be next in the Sanhedrin member. But get this, Paul really didn't have to do anything. He would have been set for life in the direction that he was currently going. And he would have been looked up to. everyone would have admired him and looked up to him. He would have had the favor of all of them. Now listen to me. He even sat under one of the best teachers, Gamaliel. But things changed when God revealed Jesus to him. And Paul made the change that God wanted for him to make, because Paul was after truth, not favor. If Paul had only been after favor from people, remaining in Judaism would have been his best bet. But Paul said, and by the way, Paul wasn't looking to get out of Judaism. Okay, that was actually never intended from God's side of things. That was man that did that. Okay, so Paul said he couldn't do it because he realized what he had been set apart for. Okay, so he recognizes God's call in his life for this purpose. So Paul goes to work. Paul began to walk in the truth. Paul didn't go immediately to Jerusalem. Paul's first journey was to Arabia, where for 3 years he studied. He studied the scrolls. And Paul realized he needed to reconcile some of these issues. So where did he go? He went to the scriptures. And that's what he studied. And later we'll find that he studied the scrolls, looking closer at Torah and the prophetic writings about Messiah, the law of the prophets. That's exactly what he was looking at. Paul was desiring integrity. And that led him to study to show himself approved to God. In 2 Timothy, that's what he tells Timothy. In 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, he tells Timothy the same thing. Okay, after 3 years of study, he talked to Peter and James, and that wasn't about them teaching him. It was really about accountability, talking to them about what was revealed to him. And Paul spent 15 days with them, most likely telling them about what God had revealed to him. And maybe this would be a good thing for us to do, is learning to discuss things that God has revealed to us through the full counsel of his word. Then Paul went to work. Paul went about the gospel. He went about teaching the truth about Messiah and the kingdom of God. Okay? That's really amazing. And also, Paul did not try and be famous. He just went to work. He it let the testimony of his works speak to everyone else, to be a witness. Paul didn't have to promote himself. He let God promote him and to reveal it to others. So that Paul just went to work. He just did what he was supposed to do. And that's pretty amazing when you look at things, at the whole scheme of things, because what do we do today? We tend to hold back. We tend to not do anything. And that's a problem. And we need to be just going out and going to work and doing the things that we're called to do. How amazing is this teaching as Paul begins to relate to us the story, in the Word, the stories that brought him to the place that he was. And it's an amazing story. And you know what? We've all got those amazing stories. How he brought us to him. That is awesome. And you know what? We need to hear each other's story. We need to hear each other's revelation. Those are good things to witness out, give testimony about. And it is amazing. I would appreciate it if you haven't subscribed to this channel to please do that. And I would also ask that you give us a thumbs up on the video and give us some comments. And if you have any questions, make sure you get those questions to us, because we'd love to be able to dialogue with you and give you any answers that we can. God bless you, and